And I invite you to tune in and join us at this time. We finally have convened, and we're about 10 minutes behind schedule. But again, if I could mention, please, that council and staff have been meeting since 4 o'clock this afternoon, and we are now just back on track with the rest of our agenda. A faith blessing we do not have this evening. However, I'll ask you to join in a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. If anyone asked for a catching of a large fish, I think you wouldn't be alone in that. Do we have any additional items for this evening, please? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I would like to comment on social media, please.
Okay. Any other members of council? Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. I have a matter pertaining to the Black Cross and Kennedy property in compliance with city bylaws.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Seeing none. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, please. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. At the August 11th meeting of council, I declared a pecuniary interest with regards to item 4A4, the Dodge Rodeo. I declare that again when we vote on the minutes. I will not be voting on that. And also bylaw 2014-140 on tonight's agenda, again with regards to the Dodge Rodeo. I'll be voting on the other bylaws, but not that bylaw. Again, the reason is that my employer has a sponsorship contract with that company.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, and I'll be declaring a conflict of interest on one of the bylaws too, the very last one, about authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan agreement between the corporation and the Sydenham properties. And I've been declaring that all along too.
Thank you. Anyone else? If a pecuniary interest should arise throughout the course of the meeting, please indicate that, and the record will indicate it as well. Confirmation of the minutes, please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 21st, 2014 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Minutes of the special council meeting, please.
Your Worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Twaddle, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on July 24th, 2014 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And minutes of the special council meeting held on August the 11th, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on August 11th, 2014 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. A resolution moving council into committee of the whole, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are now in committee of the whole. We do not have any public meetings scheduled for this evening. We do, however, have a couple of deputations, and our first deputation, I'll ask Mr. Chris Geberdt from the Sydenham Sportsman's Association to step forward to the podium and bring us the news that you have, sir.
No. She asked me if I was using PowerPoint after 14 hours a day the last 3 days. I may sound a little tired, and I'm sorry for that. Mayor Deb Hazel and fellow councillors, I appreciate the opportunity to come here before you and just give you a little rundown of what this event is about for the City of Owen Sound. My name is Chris Geberdt. I have a full-time job and 3 daughters, and I had lots of hair before I started with my family. So the 4 daughters are now, my oldest is 27 years old, and she grew up with the Salmon Spectacular in a crib as a baby in the food booth. So it just gives you a little understanding of how involved my family is with this event. The Salmon Spectacular is a 10-day event for a lot of us here, but for me and a lot of our volunteers, it starts September the 2nd, right after the Derby. From there, we get our boat draw going the end of November. And we start January the 1st to sell tickets on our boat. And it starts at the boat show. And our boat is behind us. The city banner is in front. The city banner is on our table. And the table is full of tickets plus city brochures. And everybody says it's a fishing derby. Well, I'll tell you something. Today was Looney and Tooney afternoon, and one of our big sponsors is Tim Hortons, and I went around and handed out 54 Tim Horton cards to wheelchairs, handicapped people. So tell me, yes, some of them do fish, but a lot of them don't. So this is not just a fishing derby, okay? So I'm going to continue. We go January, the boat show, February, the fishing show, Toronto Sportsman show, Hamilton show, London show, March, Niagara show, Sudbury show. Your banner is there all the time, okay? And brochures, and we don't get asked. For me, it's about Owen Sound. I was reminiscing a little bit tonight. I come here at 6:30, and the reason I came, third chair, I sat there when I was in grade 6. That's the first time I was here, and I'm back again. So, and it was Mr. Young, and we were talking about our class trip that we were going to Alberta. So Owen Sound's in my heart, and it's in my family's heart, and I'm going to retire here again, but while I'm still working full-time and volunteering, your banner, your, and I say your, our, information that we hand out is on the City of Owen Sound, not just the Owen Sound Salmon Spectacular. I don't know how many questions I get. Where's a good place to stay? Where can I golf? Oh, that's where Ingalls Falls is. You know, oh, there's another falls, Indian Falls. It's, you know, it is about Owen Sound and Owen Sound Salmon Spectacular, but we carry the flag. And that's what I'm here for tonight. Now, taking you along, we're now into Derby time, Friday night, opening ceremonies. Deb, you showed up. It was great, thank you. Did a great presentation. And then we get into Saturday, fish fry. Over 3,000 people throughout the day. Yesterday, 4,000 kids. And if it wasn't for sponsors that we have, I mentioned Tim Hortons and Faye Harshman and Bell Canada, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And that's what keeps us going and keep the Owen Sound flag flying. I mentioned today, Looney and Tooney afternoon, 54 wheelchairs and the walkers and canes. I took my grandson with me, and I said, okay, every Tim Hortons card you hand out, go give them a hug. And he hugged every one of them. So, you know, they're down there. We had senior buses lined up to come into a fishing derby. And when you say a fishing derby, they think rubber boots and fishing poles. And that's not what it's about. Tomorrow, we're looking forward to Ladies' Day. Come on down, have some fun. There's a fashion show. 2 of my daughters are taking part in the fashion show. And Dad has tears as they walk across the stage. Yeah. And Deb, I've been indicated that you're in it. That's
yes,
great.
I am.
So, and there's also guys in it too.
Yes.
And then seniors afternoon again, Wednesday, where we have, the tent will be full. We'll have 2,500 seniors in the tent. And then we go into Thursday where we have Molson afternoon, and it's bingo. And then Friday, Giant Tiger, bingo. And then our gigantic fish fry on the last Saturday, which will have almost 5,000 people. So estimated, we determined through the tent over the 10 days, 50,000 people. And we're seeing large numbers of people that are at these shows. So we're carrying your banner, and there's 2 people I do want to thank. One is Steve Furness, and I could not do what I do for the shows if it wasn't for Steve. And the other one is Paulette. And the salmon tour that she's doing, which is incorporating it into what we do with conservation and the money, is just amazing. I'm done, but I want to present you with this. This is to Deb and City Council on behalf of the Salmon Spectacular and the work you guys do and we do together.
Oh, wow, thank you so much.
Hang it
Thank
proud.
you so much.
Yeah.
We will. We'll hang
Yeah.
this up in the council chamber.
And I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you so much for everything that you do for this community. I can tell you that we have a couple of council members that want to comment as well, so I'll go right to them.
Thanks.
Councillor Lemon? This is great.
Well, on Friday night when I was down there, the crowd got larger and larger and larger, and when I left, it wasn't a lot of space left in the tent. And the fact that you're going to have 7,000 or 8,000 people out for salmon derby dinners is absolutely a fantastic number, considering we're a community of 22,000 people. And I realize and recognize the work that goes into it, because my daughter was involved with the juniors program many years ago. And it's just fantastic what goes on there. I cannot believe and don't think there's another community in Ontario that is anything that even approaches this. Because I said something, and I think it's very, very true. When the fish come in at night, all attention is on that leaderboard and the fish that come in. And you'd think people were admiring, I don't know what, jewelry or something, because they, oh, look at that, just beautiful, not a mark on it. It's really fantastic, and I commend the Sydenham Sportsman for the years and years of work that have led to this. And I can remember when you started with the bigger tent, I thought you'll never fill it. Well, I was wrong, and I'm glad I was. And congratulations to you and to all the members of the group.
Peter, thank you, but that tent does go 360 feet long and 400 feet wide, and the committee keeps stopping me from building it bigger, so it is,
Okay,
it does
so
get
it may
better.
grow yet.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship, and just excuse me while I hit Councillor Lemon with his paddle as I pass along.
Can I paddle Councillor McMahon?
Chris, I just
Right
wanted
side.
to thank you, as Councillor Lemon had. A couple of questions for you, if I might. When we talked about you coming and make a presentation last year, and you said, well, I'm not that good at making presentations or public speaking, I have to disagree with you strongly. I think you, without speaking without notes, right off the top of your head, boy, that was really good.
I threw my notes away.
How many volunteers do you have?
At the Derby event itself, 450. Corporate sponsors, we probably have another 150 on top of that. There's a total of 650 T-shirts, and they're all gone at the end of the Derby. So, yeah, that's...
And what would you, the Derby budget, would you have any idea what that number is?
At the end of the Derby, before all our bills and everything are paid, it probably have about 700,000 in our account. After all the bills are paid, everything's done, the Derby itself makes around 40,000 in and around there.
And the money that you make, what does that go towards?
100% conservation work. So you see the bluebird boxes, just take a drive outside of Owen Sound and up towards Tobermory, you'll see bumblebee boxes, you'll see bluebird boxes, you'll see toad boxes, everything like that. We have a workshop, and there's guys constantly every day building out there. On top of the fish hatchery that it takes us $80,000 a year to run, to pump fish into the bay. But you know, there's networks throughout our club, and Arnie Clark is another one, stream enhancement. He takes a whole group of guys and they do stream work. You want to see a good example? Turn left at Spring Mount and you'll see a project we did on the upper pot. That was just a stream. It's all trees now, and the water temperatures are good for fish. And if they're good for fish, they're good for humans. So it's all part and parcel to everything we do.
Well, I just want to thank you again, and I think it's important, your organization, to get that word out there, because I know everybody sort of knows that the Derby's a big deal. I think you just explained how big of a deal it is, and you're to be congratulated for that. And Councillor Lemon and Body did say if you were short on the fashion show tomorrow, they're both available. So, anyway.
I would love to put them in. I'll go on stage with you. We have chest waders, guys.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Councillor Boddy.
Thank you. Yeah, we chatted last year after volunteering late in the night, and you had really big bags then.
Yeah.
It's amazing being around there and seeing how much effort it does take, and a number of sponsorship signs and things. We'll be attending again this year with Georgian Bluffs Council to work with them to bartend for a couple of nights, which is always fun. How many trade shows or sportsman shows do you go to?
I knew I was going to be asked that. 34.
34.
And that is shows like Walkerton, Hanover, Tiverton, no, not Kincardine this year, but in past we've had other ones. One of the biggest shows, and it just blew me out of the water, was Sudbury. And people love this town from Sudbury. One of the ones that also took me off guard was Port Credit, where we did the boat show. We were right on the bike path with our boat, Own Sound right out front. And people coming out saying, "Where's Own Sound?" You gotta be kidding me. I think everybody knows where Own Sound is. And, you know, we had the pamphlet out there and we're directing them just straight up the highway and you come right up. And it was amazing. And that show alone, there had to be 20,000 people walk by us. So we're putting us on the map big time. So when you see something like the Sportsman show and we go halves with you, or you help us out to get in the Sportsman show, you know now what we're doing, and it's huge. It is huge, and we got to keep Owen Sound on the map. One of my dreams for this town is to be like Wawa with the goose. I want to see Owen Sound with a fish, and I'm not saying money from City Council. I'm saying get sponsors and do it. And that was an original idea of Daryl Cronzy's years ago. But talk about putting us on the map. People come. I got pictures of my kids with the goose. I don't know how many times from Wawa. So, but just an idea.
Great. Thank you.
Good man.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Chris, I just want to say your trips to the Sportsman shows all over pay off, because there's a lot of people come from out of town to this derby. I know I have company every weekend on the last weekend, and so I know they come for the derby, not for me.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, and Chris, I'll comment, and you did do a very good job speaking, and it was really nice to have you come. You have created a village for us, a wonderful village. Just the other day when we were down for the sod turning of the new wastewater treatment plant, we had one of the ministers from out of town kept looking over, and he finally asked the mayor, "What is that over there? What is that tent?" And we were so proud to tell him. And myself, I had 3 guests on the weekend. They couldn't believe it. And it's really, really wonderful what you do for tourism for this community. You are a #1 ambassador, and I think I'll nominate you for a cultural award as well, because I think it's culture. It's our culture.
There's one person in my life that I give credit to, and it's my dad.
Yes, yes.
And everybody here has probably seen my dad come out of me tonight. And I've been doing some work with instructing with park wardens, which is my full-time job. And if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here tonight. So that is definite.
Any other members of council? Everybody has said so much, and I don't want to belabor all the comments, but Chris, just on behalf of all of council and the entire community, I want to thank you so much. And you're right, your dad did come out in you tonight, and I had the good pleasure of having your dad as one of the best teachers I ever had, and taught me more about biology and pond life and our natural environment than truly anybody did. And I'm very, very grateful to him. And he's raised a really good son, too, a couple of them, actually. So congratulations to you. Thank you very much for all that you do for this. Thank you very much for this gift. We will hang it proudly. And Councillor Chamberlain mentioned the parliamentary assistant that was here doing the announcement on the wastewater treatment plant. Well, there's a few photographs, I think, that are floating around, and it's a photograph of our MP and myself and parliamentary assistant Arthur Potts. And we're looking at his cell phone, and we look very earnest, like we might be looking at some kind of legislation or something. And I have to tell you, he's showing us a fish that he caught. He's a fly fisherman, and it was quite something. So it touches everybody in so many ways. So thank you for enriching our community and for sharing your pride as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you. And another very proud Owen Sounder, Doug McKee, Chair of Festival of Northern Lights. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of City Council, ladies and gentlemen. On one of the warmest days of the year, it seems somewhat incongruous to be here to talk about our Christmas celebration, the Festival of Northern Lights. But in just over 11 weeks, we will be meeting on First Avenue West to once again turn on the seasonal lights. Before we get to talk about that, let's look at the past. Our financial statement for last year, and unfortunately, you don't get to touch any of this money, but we would like people to know that we budgeted for a surplus of in 2013 of $30,892. Last year we ended up with a surplus of $54,785. A truly outstanding result from a truly outstanding community. The second part of the report will be our 5-year forecast, which will take us into 2019? Nope.
18, 19?
2019, yes. By which time I will be no longer involved in the festival. Some of the activities that we were involved in last year, there was a Tempe grant, which was a marketing grant from tourism, and we received a grant of just over $7,400. And that included marketing on television in Kitchener, Barrie, the distribution of festival guides outside of a 100-kilometer radius, and the results that we received, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. This money was well spent, and I think there was a great return on it. We redesigned our website totally. We worked with George Clifford, who used to be our director of the guide and has retired, but we just can't let him go. So George volunteered and he worked with us on developing some excellent marketing material. We had 2 just outstanding new displays last year. One came from a group of community people and clubs. It cost approximately $30,000. It cost the festival $0. They raised all the money, and it sat in Harrison Park, and it was the Christmas nativity story told in music and in words. But let's get back to where I started. The festival will again, thanks to the efforts of our volunteers, be one of the largest seasonal events in the province, and we believe Ontario's largest volunteer-driven seasonal light display. Last year, through the support of Hobart Manufacturing, we were able to add a marvelous display outlining children at winter play. Additionally, through the efforts of a number of churches and social groups, we saw a new display that outlines in sound and light the biblical Christmas story we celebrate at this time of year. These displays attracted attendees from many local and not so local communities. We had people coming from Barrie, from Hamilton, from the GTA to come and see what we could do here. There are plans for the future that include upgrading the current tree lighting along the harbor, in the downtown area, and in Harrison Park. The display on the Marine and Rail Museum is going to be taken down and relit this year. And the geese flying in Harrison Park will now fly with 2 wings instead of 1. We hope to renew and upgrade the miniature buildings seen in the parkette on 8th Street. One of the new buildings is the Marine and Rail Museum, and it is just outstanding. It was built in a garage by 2 retired workers who have now passed it over to our painters who are working on getting it ready for just after Thanksgiving. One new building, the Marine and Rail Museum, will go on display this year. Eventually, new displays will be seen in numerous locations, replacing those that have outlived their lifespan. This will be the 27th year for the seasonal celebration. Our number of our volunteers will be closing in on 20 years of service, and many have passed their 80th birthday. I am constantly amazed at their abilities and willingness to devote their time to the community through their work with the festival. To each and every one of them, I offer my personal thanks for all that they have done to keep the festival growing and glowing. However, due to health concerns, this will be my last year working with the Festival of Northern Lights. One of my main focuses for this year will be to recruit new, energetic volunteers to carry forward this outstanding seasonal celebration and to establish the base upon which it will continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. And if you don't mind just staying at the podium, I'm sure there's going to be some comments and some questions. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Doug, I want to congratulate you on everything you've done for the festival, and I really want to thank you most sincerely, personally, and I think on behalf of council, for the leadership that you've shown. Your announcement tonight about your personal plans is not a surprise, but it's no less unwelcome. You'll be missed, and I know you'll still be around to act as a mentor. One of the things that and I've been the council's liaison member on the board since before you became incorporated and separated from the city, is a systematic way you've gone about establishing your financial situation and the work you've done on the displays to renew the displays. You mentioned a few of them tonight, but there's a lot more work goes on just on a routine basis with all of the displays when they come back in. And also the work that's been done to document the displays. You make reference in the written material you provided to the new display book, and also the efforts that have gone into selling sponsorship for the displays. So I think that the work that has been done under your leadership has put the Festival of Northern Lights in a very sound position, not only financially, but organizationally, structurally. And I think we should all be very grateful for the work you've done. And it's all done by volunteers who are tremendously committed and who bring a wide variety of skills. So this will be a good time to talk about volunteers and the need for volunteers. You mentioned that your volunteers are aging, but are nonetheless really committed to the organization. But there is a need for more volunteers of all ages to become involved, and there's lots of things that people can do, from painting displays and putting new lights on. Work goes on year-round. As soon as the displays come down in January and they go up to the building at the cemetery, volunteers are there sorting and deciding what needs to be repaired or upgraded or painted or spruced up. So it's really a 12-month project. There's a strong need for volunteers. You can tell people who they can get in touch with and how to go about becoming involved. And there are many, many types of volunteer opportunities, from helping to set up the displays to working on opening night to working on specific special events that you do.
Yeah, it's not what people see that is the festival. It is what people don't see that's the heart of the festival. The people who go to the barn every Thursday morning to repair, repaint, replace displays, they never get the pat in the back. They don't get people nodding to them. They don't get taken to Tim Hortons for coffee. But we just don't operate without those people, and without the people who set up the displays and take them down. Yes, this is a community effort.
That's right.
Well, people can contact you through the website to
Yes.
volunteer, or do you know the phone number off the top of your head?
If they call City Hall and extension 1225 and ask for Leah.
Yeah, so that's 376-4440, extension 1225.
Right.
Any other members of council? Doug, if I can just on behalf of, Councillor Lemon.
Well, I'm really glad, Doug, you talked about the people up in the barn. Talk about the unseen elves of the Festival of Northern Lights. When I was on the board a number of years ago, I was suggested I go up there and see what they're doing. And it was like Santa's workshop up there. And I was chatting with one, and one of them said to me, well, I can't talk, I got work to do. And she was painting those little display things that go out in front of the displays at that time. But it is a people-driven festival. It's the people's festival. And the interesting thing is that here you see all these spectacular displays, and it's something that's an economic equal opportunity for people. If you're rich or poor, it doesn't make any difference. It's our Festival of Northern Lights, and we thank the people who make it happen, because for a lot of people, it's a bit of Christmas, and it's very, very important. And although it's warm outside tonight, I sort of regret the fact that you're telling us snow is going to come.
I didn't say that.
No, actually you didn't. You very nicely avoided the four-letter word.
Anybody else? Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Doug, I would like to say ditto to everything that Councillor Twaddle said, because he said it very well, but you've really done a wonderful job with the Festival of Northern Lights, and you lifted it to great heights, and you'll be a hard act to follow. But I just say thank you.
Thank you. And one person doesn't do this. It is all of the volunteers, the ones who come out and stand in snow up to their knees, driving stakes into the ground so that the displays will not fall down, those that go to the barn every Thursday to paint and to rehabilitate displays. They are the heroes of this event.
Thank you so much, Doug. I can't not add anything more eloquent than the words that you just spoke, and the pride that you show in our community as well is shared by all of us. The Festival of Northern Lights is it's an absolute tradition in our community. It is something that so many of us have grown up with. Our kids have grown up with it, and it would not be the Christmas season without it. There's an anticipation for that festival to happen, and I remember years ago I was really young too, and and needless to say, I was a volunteer on the Downtown Improvement Area Board of Management as the head of the promotions committee, and one of the local businesses came to us and said, we should do this light show. And there was the usual grumbling. And I said to Marg, I said, oh, just do it. Just do it. It sounds great. Not thinking for a moment that this many years later, it would be the size and scope that it is. So it does take a village to create a light show, and congratulations to you and to all the volunteers.
Couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely. Thank you. All the best. Are there any members of the public here this evening who would like to ask a question of this council? Correspondence. We have 3 pieces of correspondence. What is council's direction? Councillor Purdon.
I'd like to speak to the correspondence from Halton Region. We actually did look at this briefly at our last council meeting. It's an example of a resolution from Halton supporting the province of Ontario to reintroduce SLAP legislation, which fell off the order table, I think, when the election was called. I spoke to this last time about the importance of having SLAP legislation that's strategic lawsuits against public participation. I wonder if they made up that name just so they could get SLAP out of it. But it's actually a way of equalizing people's opportunities in the law. The law is here for all of us, so that people can be able to avoid having lawsuits against them when they speak out against controversial projects. Sometimes these are environmental projects or natural resource projects where individuals or communities or groups bring forward concerns and then have been hit with a lawsuit from often very well-funded big organizations or companies. It just protects individuals and supports their right to bring concerns forward without risking being sued and silenced. Because once you're sued, you have to put all your resources into countering a legal action. The province did bring this forward, and I would like this, or I'd move that this council send a similar resolution or letter to the province supporting the reintroduction of this legislation. So that would be my wish.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, not speaking to this motion, but there was you were asking for people to receive all the correspondence. And I have to declare a conflict of interest in the correspondence from Georgian Villas at Cobble Beach, as my wife is an employee of Cobble Beach.
That has been noted, Councillor Lemon. Thank you. Councillor Wright?
No, I support
Oh, okay.
the motion from, that's all, I was going to go for that.
Okay. Councillor Boddy, any other comments to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a correspondence from the Grey Bruce Health Unit with regards to what level of government we might be. Councillor McManaman.
Worship, thank you, Worship. I found this somewhat confusing. Maybe I'd ask the clerk, is there
Yes.
any clarification
We'll go to the
of
clerk.
this?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I had looked into this matter originally and had spoken with Dr. Sandra Bennett at the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. I advised that we had done a referendum under the Fluoride Act in 1997 and asked the ministry if it was their understanding that we should proceed that way again, and they advised that that was their understanding. Subsequent to that, they also advised that they were satisfied with the wording of the question and had no intention to change the legislation at this time. With respect to going through the Municipal Act instead, the Grey Bruce Health Unit has indicated, in addition to the letter that you received this evening, recently still, that they think there's the possibility that we might be exempted from the Fluoride Act by virtue of being a lower tier municipality that forms part of a regional municipality for municipal purposes. So They did ask me to check with the ministry or get a third-party opinion on whether that was possible. I did check with the ministry, who did confirm we are a lower-tier municipality that forms part of a county system, and we are not part of a regional municipality. And I believe that those two elements, what the Ministry of Health has said and what the Ministry of Municipal Affairs has said, has us working under the Fluoride Act. I would also mention that at the time that we passed the bylaw, we did a notice of intention to pass. We had public meetings. We did a notice of passing, which had an appeal period, which was 20 days after that notice of passing. That was all back in April and May.
Councillor McManaman.
Motion to receive the correspondence. Thank the clerk for her thorough explanation.
Thank you. Further discussion to that? Well, there's no question, there is no question that the question is rather convoluted. There is no question. However, this council is on record as sending a motion that this council supported to the minister, asking that in future we be allowed to ask a much simpler question that would give a yes or no answer instead of this roundabout answer. Right now, people need to understand that if you say yes, it means get the fluoride out. If you say no, it means keep it. So I would suggest that all members of council share that with their constituents in the days ahead. Madam Clerk.
I feel compelled just before you vote to advise that the other options available to you are to rescind the bylaw and not go forward with the plebiscite, or to get another legal opinion to determine whether or not you're moving ahead in the right direction. And
We have a motion to receive at this time. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Wright.
Is the motion to receive for the rest of the correspondence, or just the one?
Just this piece. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. And the last piece from Georgian Villas, Councillor Twaddle.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. This is an issue that I thought maybe had been resolved a number of years ago. Seems to have arisen again. We just went through a very lengthy process and a very involved public process on the creation of a sign bylaw through the Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee. And I would ask that this just be referred to the committee, and we can meet with the folks from Cobble Beach, Georgian Villas, and see what has prompted some change in what I thought was something that was going on for a number of years. So I would move that we refer this to Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee.
Sure. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Lemon can come back in. We have reports on our consent agenda item. We have 8 new business licenses, which is quite something, in one meeting. Very good. And if all 8 businesses have at least 2 employees, we have 16 new jobs. I think that's something to be pretty happy about. What's council's direction on the consent agenda? Councillor Purdon.
I'd move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Any discussion? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Under the correspondence section, there's just looking for it, a letter from our Director of Finance about the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund and the assistance. Just wondering if that could be placed on a future agenda for further discussion.
Absolutely.
I don't think we can say it enough times, the problems we're having with our provincial funding. So if that could be, I have no problem receiving this, but if we could have that on a future agenda as well.
Absolutely. Details will follow. Further discussion? All those, Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I just noted that under the call for a nomination of an award for a physician, and there is a form that you can fill out. Is it all right to just go ahead and do that, or do we have to do that as a whole council?
I'll defer to the clerk on this one.
This was not sent to council specifically for nominations. This
Okay.
was just sent for your awareness, so I believe it can be done on an individual basis.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will note for the minutes that with respect to the Owen Sound Housing Corporation and the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing, that the minutes reflect Councillor Chamberlain as a director. She was inadvertently added to that list, and their minutes are going to reflect that at their next meeting.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. We have a report from the Manager of Economic Development and Tourism. This is a request for a Phase 1 environmental study of the court building and the jail. It's Council's direction on this. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Worship. I think that this is something that, in light of the fact that we'd like to sell the property, it would be wise to do the Phase 1. The cost is reasonable, $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the site. So I would move that we take the recommendation that we direct staff to undertake respecting Phase 1 environmental study for the court building.
Need further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have motion from the city, or report from the city clerk on an encroachment agreement, 1804 Fifth Avenue West. It's council's direction, please. Councillor Purdon.
I move the recommendation that we authorize an agreement with this encroachment as outlined in the report.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report from the Human Resources Health and Safety Coordinator, and this is with regards to holiday closure, city offices. An awful lot of... Oh, yes. How could I? 12B3, the municipal election report. Thank you. That's council's direction on this. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you. Could I ask the clerk to introduce this? There's some important information here for the public, I think.
Please.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I will note that we are setting up or requesting council to pass a bylaw for us to set up specialty polls, which will have reduced polling hours, but will exceed the number of polls that we are required to have under the legislation. We will have 11 specialty polls on voting day if we go forward with this draft bylaw, and they are listed in the report. They are also will be listed on our website and will be put in the paper. As far as transit is concerned, there is a question for council to consider on whether or not you would like to have transit extended on the evening of voting up until 8:30 to allow people to get to the polls and home. That has been done in the past. Scrutineers, there is always the option of scrutineers at the election, and because there's a question on the ballot, there's the option for council to appoint scrutineers with respect to the question on the ballot in this election. And with respect to internet voter lookup and registration, starting on September 2nd, ratepayers will be able to go to our elections website, which is election.owensound.ca, and put in their information to determine if they are on the voter list. That will allow them right away to find out whether or not they need to come to City Hall to make any amendments or get themselves on the list. If they are merely registering to get on the list, they'll be able to do part of that registration process online to make it faster for them when they come to the clerk's department. They'll also be able to find out where they can vote and look at maps of each of the locations, as well as find out what candidates they can vote for.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Councillor McManaman and then Councillor Body.
Just a quick question. The question of scrutineers is just for the fluoridation question?
With respect to council doing appointments, of course, each candidate can appoint scrutineers.
Right,
and
but the
yes.
specific, this is just for...
Yes.
I don't really see that as a necessity, but thank you.
Councillor Body.
With regard to busing that day, I would be one that would encourage keeping the buses running a little bit longer so that everyone can get to vote. I spoke to someone again today, and I spoke to them several weeks ago, who will be contacting the city in the next week, and they want to sponsor the buses so they're free for voting day, for Election Day. They'll be contacting, I told them to contact Wayne. I had to pick somebody, so he's the lucky guy. So it may be that that will fall into place. We'll get extended hours and somebody will pay for it to allow free service to really help everyone
Great.
be able to go and vote. So, do you need a motion to extend the hours right now? I don't know what the hours were in the past, so what I'll do is I'll move that we extend hours on that day to match previous years, and hopefully that allows you to figure it out.
Through you, Your Worship, that would be extending until 8:30 p.m.
Perfect.
Okay. Discussion, Councillor Purdon. You were just ready to vote? I was ready to vote. All right.
Sorry, I didn't really finish that. And the recommendation is presented on the report.
Okay. So it's the recommendation, the 3 points plus the additional extension of transit to 8:30? Sure. Okay. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, just clarifying, that doesn't address the scrutineer issue, but maybe in not addressing it, it means we don't do it. So just to clarify that there's no intention to appoint scrutineers for that ballot, for that particular question.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we're talking about Christmas time again. Yes. This is with regards to holiday hours at City Hall. Councillor Chamberlain?
I'll move that we accept the recommendation as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report on the 2015 Pan Am. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if we could table this item until, for further information on the budget and other information until the next meeting.
Okay.
Pardon?
Until the next regular council meeting?
That's, yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is, one opposed, that motion's carried. Thank you. This is a very interesting subject. It's the special hockey themed event in January 2015. Okay, hockey fans, this is your chance. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move the recommendation that we approve the pre-budget for the hosting of Rogers Hometown Hockey in January 2015 and authorize staff to strike a local organizing committee to plan and execute the event. Details to follow.
Details, many details. Very exciting. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a motion of support for the exemption of aviation fuel from tax at the Owen Sound Billy Bishop Regional Airport. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering if Mr. Becking could introduce this report.
Welcome to Mr. Becking, our new Director of Operations and his first official publicly televised council meeting. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and members of council. Through you, Your Worship, as a part of the provincial budget that was passed in June, reintroduced in June actually, the government made known its intention to increase the taxes on aviation fuel by 4 cents a litre. Currently, it is 2.7 cents a litre. That rate has been in place since 1992, as I understand it. The intention is to increase the rate of taxation by 1 cent per litre per year for each of the current year and the coming years. Any increase in cost to any business is difficult to accommodate in a competitive market. In the aviation business, the margins are particularly fine. and this adds on to the cost. It also represents a further challenge to attract businesses to the community, given our distance away from Toronto. So all in all, while the revenue impact may be positive for the province, it'll have a negative impact on the economy of small and medium-sized airports such as our own. That said, the minister has indicated on a couple of occasions that he may be favorably inclined to provide some degree of relief, and the resolution that's been drafted for you would give us an opportunity to find out whether or not he's committed to that.
Discussion, Councillor Lemon.
Well, originally the taxes on fuel were to fund roads for cars, and I assumed to fund airports on air fuel. So they're not funding airports, so why this dramatic increase in taxation? Because it's going from 2.7 up to 6.7, which is a humongous increase in tax and totally unwarranted. And I will move the recommendation to send a letter to the draft resolution, which is attachment 1, because I really feel that this is getting absolutely ridiculous. And the other thing is, the owners group has done a wonderful job with the airport. They've reduced the cost to the city by a significant amount, by about 50–60%. And let's encourage this group to do even more, and the money that's coming out of it is going to mean they won't be able to do as much. So I think it's a very negative thing, and I agree with the draft resolution.
Further discussion? Wasn't so bad, was it, Mr. McKee?
No, Your Worship, it was very smooth, thank you.
You were very gentle.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you for the report. We have a report from Mr. Tupling with regards to Owen Sound Transit System. This is a contract with First Student and the implementation of the new 4-route service. It's Council's direction on this. Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation to authorize yourself and the clerk to sign an agreement with First Canada, I guess they're now called, to supply new transit buses.
Oh.
First Student.
Okay. First Student, yes, sorry, I skipped ahead a line.
Okay.
The recommendation that's there, that we
Thank you.
move ahead with the purchase.
Further discussion? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. A question for Mr. Ritchie, I suppose. This new contract, what's the increase in the budget from this year to next year's budget for this new contract?
Through Your Worship, as Mr. Tupling and I reported July 24th, we believe this would see an increase of approximately $120,000 to the city's budget, resulting from the 4-route as opposed to the 3-route we budget for in 2014.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Under the new agreement, does the city still have the responsibility of selling advertising for these buses?
Your Worship, if I may, there is an agreement with PASS and advertising, and that covers advertising on the buses, and that agreement runs to sometime in 2016.
Right.
So that agreement will remain in force and effect with these new buses, and Patterson would be looking at.
And after that?
I would suggest, Your Worship, that prior to that, there will be an agreement or a report come back to council making a recommendation about extending the agreement or terminating it as council.
So it will be the responsibility of the city. Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
I'm a little confused. The advertising revenue from the buses comes to the city, correct?
Your Worship, yes, it does. Yes.
And in the same way it does with the benches and the waiting areas. So this is city revenue. So when that contract expires, we would have the option of continuing to receive that revenue because it does offset our costs of the transit system. Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay. Councillor Wright, did you? No, I'm fine. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. The new agreement under the whereas says the purpose is clarifying certain operational matters. We don't have the old contract in front of us, and I understand that between the time this was posted on the agenda and today, there have been a couple of changes, and I wonder if either Mr. Tupling or Mr. Becking could address the changes from what we have in front of us.
Maybe it's probably if you could go to the podium and just turn that microphone on. There we go. A little more comfortable.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and I want to Your Worship and members of council, I want to acknowledge Ken was able to pick up some of the loose ends on Thursday and Friday and over the weekend, and it's been resolved. And so what we've done today is to summarize the changes. And do you have the other agreement, the most recent one on the board?
This is the most recent.
Okay, if you could go to, the first change was paragraph 1.3 was added, and that's the term of the agreement. That was added to the contract. It was in the previous agreement, as I recall, but just had been deleted. Now there is a reference to the term of the agreement elsewhere, but it's duplicated. But this is the same term as the original contract. As a result of that change, there were some numbering changes that were made later on. The next paragraph where there was a change made is in paragraph 3.9. And this is a paragraph that was added to the agreement, and the previous paragraph 414 was deleted. I'll just explain what happens. There is not a significant change here, but I will explain what has happened. Paragraph 414 gave the city the right to terminate the agreement in the event there was a breach or violation of the agreement by First Student and draw on the letter of credit as liquidated damages. The city retains that right, and I emphasize that the city retains the right, with the exception that before it can now do that, the city has to give First Student 7 days notice that there is a violation of the agreement. This First Student has 7 days to rectify the violation or indicate that they are rectifying it, in which case the agreement would not be terminated. The second thing that is included in the agreement, so that's the one change that was made there. The second clause is that the agreement the city can terminate the agreement immediately and draw on the letter of credit upon written notice to First Student. If First Student ceases to operate the service or their default of the agreement may impact the health and safety of any person. So the city has retained the right that in an extreme circumstance they could terminate the agreement and again draw on the letter of credit if it was felt necessary. The next change is in paragraph 310. And in this replaces paragraph 415 in the agreement that you saw. Paragraph 415 gave the city, but not First Student, and I emphasize not First Student, the right to terminate the agreement without cause after 6 months' notice. Paragraph 310, which replaces 415, now gives either party the right to terminate the agreement without cause, but after 8 months' notice. So it's First Student now has that right to terminate the agreement. Your Worship and members of council, I'm cautiously optimistic that having worked at it as hard as we have, this is not likely going to happen. But the provision is there, and it's an equal provision for both parties. The last two changes are very minor. Then paragraph 416, the original paragraph 416 now becomes 414 because two were eliminated. And page 18 was reformatted a wee bit just to clear it up, clean it up to make it look like the rest of the schedules. The other comment that I will make, Your Worship and members of council, is that these changes have been vetted through the city solicitor, and he is on side with them. And based on that recommendation, we are recommending the council proceed with the bylaw tonight.
Thank you very much. It certainly will be good to get those buses ordered. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, that last clause you showed, there's a fair change in that, because under the original contract, we had the right to decide on what buses were ordered. And this one, it appears that it's First Student that now gains that right.
Kristen, if you could go to clause 4.
4.14.
414, yes. I believe, Your Worship, to Councillor Lemon, 414 is the one that clause you're referring to about the selection of the buses.
Yes.
And specifically, that has been changed to read, approve the authorized vehicles being purchased by the operator, the details of which are more particularly described in the schedule. In the schedule, it specifically says that they will be 6 ARBOC Spirit of Mobility model buses, and this is consistent with the resolution that Council passed on July the 24th, when it specifically identified the kinds of buses that would be purchased.
But under the original contract, did the city not have an override on that? That if the contractor came forth with a bus that was not suitable to the city, we had the right to say no?
No, Councillor Lemon, I know where you, this in fact provides more certainty for the city in terms of the specifics around the type of buses. So it's really, quite frankly, from my perspective, it's really protecting the city and being very specific as to the type of buses that are to be provided by First Student. So I think you actually agree with this, but perhaps the wording is different.
Your Worship, in the original agreement, the original contract we had, it read as such that the city had to approve what was the bus that was going to be chosen.
We have done that.
Okay, but I'm saying that it did change. This is quite a change, and I am glad it's been reviewed by the solicitor, and that's good. My question is, in terms of the use of replacement buses, which has been a very sore point, because for 10 days the accessibility bus was a school bus, which was really totally unacceptable. And I'm wondering if that's covered in here, because I can't find it.
Your Worship, there is a clause in the agreement. First of all, there's going to be 6 buses that will be purchased by First Student, so there will always be a spare, and that spare bus will be the bus that is available either for specialized transit or for conventional transit service. The second comment would be that there is a clause in the agreement that provides that if more than 2 of the new buses are out of service at one time, which with new buses we hope that would be an unlikely situation, then First Student is required to provide an alternate bus with the expectation that it will be of limited duration.
But does that have to be approved by the city as in the old agreement?
That would create, I would think, quite an onerous, a disruption of service even further. To allow the operator to keep the buses rolling, I would think would be
Your Worship, with all due respect, for a person who was profoundly disabled and was using a walker, the school bus that was supplemented for the accessibility was not accessible.
And no
so
one
this has been a problem, is in the original contract we had, quite clearly that buses that were put into when the buses were down were supposed to be approved by the city. And I did speak to the city manager about that. And this isn't covered at all now.
Your Worship, if I may, paragraph 5.3, or 5.13, pardon me. If Kristen could go to that one.
Yep.
That's the one that covers off and
So of a type and condition approved by the city to provide and maintain regular service.
So it is in there.
So it is in there still. It's different.
It's the exact same wording as the previous agreement.
Okay.
Any other points, Councillor Lemon?
Well, I will support this because we've got to get new buses. The buses are falling apart of other things, but my big concern is we are buying smaller buses, all smaller buses, and I really think, particularly on the Brook route, we're going, with the number of people who will get on at 14th Street apartments and the 28th Street apartments, I think we may be overloading the buses due to the ridership. And example was on the buses on Tuesday, and the bus that took me home, which would have been the Brook, there were about 2 or 3 seats left, and that was it in the afternoon.
Councillor Bellotti.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you and everyone are aware, my mother passed away during that bus meeting, so I wasn't here. I think for maybe my own conscience, I want to put in the record what my positions would have been on the bus matters. At the time, I was more in favor of the 3-route system, and I thought we could have looked harder at 3-route system. We didn't. Majority of council moved ahead with that in a direction which I support my fellow councillors. I also want to put in record that I support my fellow councillors and the buses that they did choose and the size. I frankly like keeping the terminal unless we had a very specific place that we could do the crossovers, and that would have been my position on that. I support this motion. I've been through the contract, been through a few contracts my day. I'm pretty confident that everybody should be satisfied from the city, from the city hall, from council's point of view, as well as from the busing company. This is a good contract. I don't see any issues in it, and I've been through it, and I support it.
Thank you. Further discussion. Councillor Purdon.
I fully support this contract and moving forward with transit, and really happy that this recommendation is here. And if the motion is the motion on the floor?
Councillor Adair put it on the floor.
Thank
yes.
you. And I'd like to call the question, or if you could call the question.
I will do that. Mr. Tupling seems to have one more thing.
just one more thing. Kristen, do you have the color scheme? I wanted to show that to council for the buses. We have that's the best we can do for a color. Suffice it to say the color is the same, the blue color is the same as the blue color on the existing buses, and the roof will be white, so council is aware of that. And finally, there will be 2 additional reports coming forward from Mr. Becking, one with respect to moving to the new 4-route system, and the second with respect to the communication package, but those will be looked at after it's been time to figure out the best time to implement the new routes.
Tonight we're approving this contract. Correct. All of those other things require another meeting and other discussions and much more dialogue. So let's do this first. Thank you very much. To the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you. And Councillor Lemon, you've done a very good job of keeping this issue in front of council. I have to say we've had some pretty heated debates around this, but you've done a tremendous job keeping it in front of council, and I have to commend you for that. So, Councillor Bellotti. Oh, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. Unfortunately, I'd like to point out to council that you now have to say goodbye to Mr. Tupling. This is his last meeting. He's been a tremendous asset to both me and I think to this municipality in his time here.
Absolutely.
He's shown tremendous professionalism and diligence, and he's brought what was a challenging file, the transit file, to a major milestone tonight. So I would like to personally thank Jack for all his efforts. and we'll miss him.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to members of council and to staff. It's been my pleasure to work with you. I've enjoyed this assignment, but we have moved it to a point where I think council has a plan, a very good go-forward plan, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of council, Mr. Tupling, I thank you for being here over the last year almost. 5 months, and and I think you've gotten a little bit younger, and I've gotten a little bit older, and it's at the end of the day, you certainly did come to us and help us out through a very tricky time. So thank you. Moving along, we have a report from the, where are we? Oh, boards and committees already. We're down at boards and committees. Yeah. Bylaw committee held on August the 6th. What's council's direction? Councillor Dare.
I move the minutes of the bylaw committee, Your Worship, and I'd just like to point out to council the one major issue, although there were several of that at that meeting, is the recommendation to council of a new business license bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
This bylaw will take 7 present bylaws about different kinds of business licenses and bring them all into one license. It also collapses down the number of schedules. There'll be one business license application form, not 7. We're also looking at having the staff take on some more power to issue business licenses if they fit all the other criteria, as well as changing some of the fees surrounding business licenses, including if you move your business from one place in the city to another place in the city, it's not going to be $150, it's only going to be $50. So we've made quite a few changes. Staff have been working on this and talked to the DIA and the Chamber of Commerce, and it's been back and forth many times to the stakeholders. And I think that this is it's going to be much clearer to staff, much clearer to those who come in and looking for a business application.
Certainly reducing that red tape. Councillor Lemon.
One question I got, what is a replacement business license? I haven't got a clue.
Maybe if you lose yours.
Yeah, it is for a loss, but you are required to have your business
Mm-hmm.
license on display in your business.
Oh, okay.
And should you lose it, you have to replace it.
After 35, 36 years, they get a little bit dog-eared and taped.
In most businesses, I've never seen one on display.
They're around. I was also happy to see that there might be some action on cigarette butt receptacles. I know it's a very small but unsightly issue. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have Community Planning Heritage Advisory Committee minutes. Council's direction. Councillor Twaddle.
I would move the balance of the minutes, Your Worship.
Moving the balance of the minutes. Thank you. Discussion on any of those sets of minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. In-camera meeting minutes for approval. Council's direction. The July 21st. Councillor McManaman. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Minutes of the in-camera Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation meeting from July 14th. Councillor Wright.
Move all 3 of them.
Thank you. July 28th and again July 28th. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Other business. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the use of iPhones that I observed while I was at Summerfolk. It was very interesting to me that people were waving them because they were lighting up the evening. But one of the things that was said is that some of them were, because of the bad weather, people wanted to check the weather when the rain was going to stop. So they were having a bit of trouble getting on Wi-Fi at some of the locations in Summerfolk. So I know we're working away with that around getting our Wi-Fi fixed up. So I just wanted to, it didn't seem to be a big problem, but it seemed to really only work behind the stage where the talent was, and not very many other places on the site. But to that end, I am so thrilled with what's going on with our social media, and I was just at a very interesting meeting with the Economic Development last Friday, where our team with Shelley and you know her name, Paulette, did a very nice presentation about the number of likes that we've had, and they had put up the Streets Alive Busker Fest and Summerfolk, and they had some competition or a contest going on, and the number of people that they were able to reach was in the thousands, and it did seem to equate to a really good thing. It's happening right now for the Salmon Derby, and I think by today they wanted 400 likes by 4 o'clock or something, and that will be happening with the Salmon Tour as well. We're also getting onto this hashtag thing, and if you want to watch someone catch a fish live, you just have to go to #fish.com, because they're putting them right on if they have that. See, I'm really getting there. I am really getting there. But I am very excited about the way we're using our social media, and I do think we're reaching a lot of people about our tourism and about coming to Owen Sound.
It is fascinating to think that only 4.5 years ago, we didn't even do that. So we're heading in the right direction. 3 years ago even. Yes, definitely. And who thought hashtags, we used to know them as number signs, and now they're hashtags. Isn't that amazing? I like to say that. I like to feel my age some days. Okay. Those of you who have issued the ALS challenge to me, I want to thank you so much, and I will certainly participate, but stop. Stop already. Please donate to the charity of your choice, and thank you so much for the shout-outs. I do appreciate that. Any other members of council? Councillor Lemon, yes.
Yes, Your Worship. One of the things that happened when there was a gathering down by the Black Clawson Kennedy site a short time ago is in the middle of the site there's a large area which is a weed fest. And I also found out by looking out the window is also the home of a large number of skunks who at night go from the BCK under the fence and into various neighborhood areas. And my understanding is that when a site has been decommissioned as this has, it's supposed to be cleaned up to such a way that the grass can be maintained, but yet the grass is not being maintained in the middle of the site. So could we get a report back on that? Because I think it should be, it's a bit of a, it really looks ugly. And they have repaired the fence to a degree, but my concern is those repairs are, I think, temporary at best, because when the snow gets up against that fencing, I don't think it's going to take the sheer weight of it. And for instance, the plow on First Avenue West and Second Avenue West, when it's pushing the snow back, it's pushing the snow back, and I'm not sure that that fencing will survive it, but we'll have to see. But I would like a report back from staff on our standards bylaw and the fact that I don't believe that that site is in compliance. That's my motion.
Okay, to the motion. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. It's interesting, one of the neighbors from over there said that all the bulrushes in the center, they actually liked those and they didn't want them taken down. So it's always in the eye of the beholder, I can say.
Unfortunately, they're not bulrushes. They're actually that Phragmites.
Phragmites. Well, there you go. Okay, we have can we have a motion that we rise? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried. We're now in formal session. A resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Twaddle, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole and considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Notices of motion, please. Councillor Purdon.
I have a notice, oh, I have to stand up, sorry.
Yes, please.
Please stand up. I have a notice of motion. I hereby give notice that I will move or cause to be moved a motion at the next regular council meeting to request through the Freedom of Information a copy of the Dillon report on the Owen Sound Harbour that was prepared for Transport Canada, and that the Dillon report be provided to the Owen Sound Council for their information. This is in response to the presentation that was provided last council meeting by our MP, Larry Miller, when requested about the Dillon report, which contains important information, I think, for our community, that in order to get a copy of that report, we would need to do a Freedom of Information request. So that's the motion that I'll be bringing forward at our next council meeting.
Thank you. And if you could pass that to the clerk for their records. New business by resolution, please. Seeing none, bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wright, that bylaws number 2014-136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 145, 146, and 147 be hereby passed and enacted.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried, and we are now adjourned. Good evening.
I thought this would be a long meeting.
I did too.
Yeah, I thought Ron Perry thought it was on the speed.